One more match for day one of the NASL Grand Finals Season 4. Long Beach, can you handle one more match? So can we. Well, it's time. It's time. I cannot believe how incredible these games have been, and we're not done yet. Now it's time for Sortof versus Violet. Let's see the videos.
Who is this guy? Who is Sortof? Exactly. That's the question everyone was asking 3-4 months ago when this guy was appearing everywhere, doing well at WCS Sweden, doing well in European tournaments everywhere. It's time that people start talking about this guy. So much DPS in this army.
Sortof right now catapulting up to 180 supply.
Look at this concave from Sortof. He doesn't really post on forums and cry about imbalance. He's not going out posting his opinion on the state of the game. He's a guy that just sits down and plays. In the NASL Season 4 Open, he just did the same build and beat Koreans doing it. Sortof says, I'm going to impose my will, I'm going to play what I know best, and I'm going to win. He's not a player that you normally see at the finals of all the tournaments, and that's going to play into his advantage. An NASL Open is much different from the NASL Finals, and I think Sortof has plenty of surprises.
Oh, Sortof is going to go win this game right now. He's going to come pressing up this ramp, coming in from just about every angle possible, and I think this is going to do it. Sortof's got this one in the bag. He's 100 supply ahead. Here comes the rest of Sortof's army. So many infested Terrans being spawned.
Violet's one of the few people who's able to go to the US, live here, adapt, assimilate, learn our culture, and perform better internationally. He's won IEM Sao Paulo, he's won an MLG, but he's never truly pieced together a great run in a premier tournament, and that's all about the change.
Is Violet actually gonna hold?
Statistically, the best performing Zerg in 2012.
Ludicrous army right now.
He's had a lot of opportunities to travel to many tournaments, but he's slowed down a lot because he wants to focus on NASL victory. He went undefeated this season, one of 3 players to do so. He's gonna run over everything. GG, division number 3 belongs to Azubu Violet. Violet showed up and dominated every single one.
God, this army of Violet, so strong.
Zerglings, Banelings, Mutas, oh my.
Violet can be everywhere, and he can still macro and continue to pressure you until the point where you crumble. I think he's poised for an NASL Season 4 victory.
But Violet's ZVZ is world class, cruising at a current APM of over 500. GG is called.
GG gets called.
Are you kidding me right now?
Ladies and gentlemen, please give it up for Western Wolves, Sortof! And his opponent from Team Azubu, Violet. Gentlemen, please shake hands. Good luck. Have fun. Now let's throw it over to Gretorp and Day9.
Thank you so much, Clutch. Day9, I'm so glad to be joining you. The last time we casted was, what was it, WCS?
For WCS Canada.
Oh my gosh.
Which was an absolutely stunning tournament, again, where Scarlet made a shocking performance, just destroying everyone for first place. And now we here get the opportunity to watch a Zerg versus Zerg, and what's so cool to me is that all the mirror matchups have just wound up being so amazing in the last few months.
Oh my god, definitely so. And you know, the last Zerg versus Zerg we just saw with Sortof and Hyun, I was completely blown away. Yeah. I went down to him and apologized to him for not knowing more about this guy. I mean, I kid you not.
It's one of those weird things where there's a couple of tournaments, or excuse me, a couple of players who don't really enter that many tournaments, who just play really quietly and diligently alone at home and with their practice partners. And when they make a debut, it's amazing to see their skill level.
Yeah, Sortof is one of those players. And on top of that, Kevin Rotterdam was actually saying his hand speed, his accuracy is one of the best he's ever seen before, ever. And he was watching him play, he was just like, oh my gosh, he's actually outdoing Pult at sometimes, because they were practicing, just trying to hone their skills for this tournament. But wow, to outdo Pult, to out-multitask Pult, that's something that's really difficult to do.
And I mean, here on his list of accomplishments, I mean, you're seeing that probably the one that is most notable is that second place in WCS Sweden. Other than that, he's just been practicing really hard. He's one of those, the gentlemen of the North up in the Polish House Ministry of Win, where, like Snoot, who made an amazing performance at IPL. I mean, here we're getting the chance to see sort of really have a breakout tournament in a matchup that he has proven about 2 hours ago he's amazing at.
Now, keep in mind, his opponent has a lot of data. 3 games, actually. But that's actually showcased a very unique style. Violet, one of the most aggressive and, you know, just like a wild cannon. That's not the right word.
I mean, he's completely unpredictable. It's in a sense that it's not that he's random with his play. It's that it's almost as though he's never watched a single replay of anyone else and just said, you know what, I think I'm going to do what is appropriate. Sometimes it's standard, sometimes it's unorthodox, but no matter what, you always know there's going to be 50 million counterattacks all game long.
Yeah, that's something that's so cool because you actually have to play very, very scout heavy whenever you play against him. Because if you don't, you're going to get punished. He will be that player that, hey, my build defends against 95% of the builds, but if he thinks that it's strong against you, he will use that 5% of builds that beat you.
It's like in the old, you know, stories of the Revolutionary War where they used to fight by just lining up because that was gentlemanly.
Yes.
There's those gentlemanly agreements that exist in a lot of matchups like Zerg versus Zerg. Like first we're going to try to kill each other with Banelings and Zerglings. Then after that, we're only going to engage once we have infestors. But I mean, Violet is the one who breaks that with nonstop Roach counterattacking. Sort of also, too, did that really weird Roach timing in Cloud Kingdom.
Yeah, that too. So definitely 2 very unique styles, sort of the more standard style. We have the aggressive, I guess, wild card Violet that could do anything. I really don't know what to expect here. I'm actually choosing sort of. Originally going into it, I thought I was going to be choosing Violet, but sort of just impressed me so goddamn much.
You know, it's one of those things like where you talked about needing to give him the apology. I feel like I need to do that too because, you know, beforehand they were like, Sean, what are your predictions? And they're writing things down on clipboards and that sort of thing. And I'm like, and in my last prediction, I predicted a lot of 3-1s and 3-2s. I just said Hyun 3-0 sort of.
Yeah.
Because it's Hyun. And then here's sort of really honestly with that crazy Hydra play looking poised to have another solid victory over a top Korean Zerg versus Zerger.
And I'm really interested to see the interpretation of Violet's play. How does he deal with this mass Hydra play? Because I don't see any glaring weaknesses, potentially just a pre-timing before trying to splurge out all of the infested Terrans. But we'll see that very shortly.
Guys, it's time to get semifinal 2 kicked off. It is game 1 between Azubu's Violet and Western Wolf's Sortof. Spawning down in the bottom left position from Team Western Wolves. It is the dark horse of the tournament. It is Sortof.
And the aggressive monster that is the blue Zerg. He is spawning in the top right-hand position as Azubu Violet.
There is that one girl in here who just loves Violet. 3 girls are like, I'm that one girl. And there's also some fine gentlemen who enjoy Violet as well.
That's right.
But you know, it's kind of funny in terms of a. Let's talk a little bit about the cheering metagame.
Go ahead. Because I have no clue where you're going with this, so go ahead.
Violet is one of the most popular players, period, both inside and outside of Korea. People love him. He's extremely nice, has a lot of personality, and his play has a ton of flair. But sort of, the person who no one knows is the last standing foreigner. What do you do, Gretorp? Do you see where the casting meta has gone? It's come to the point where, especially, you know, on the Team Liquids and Reddit, people are like, it's any foreigner, yes!
Like as the casters, our job is to be biasly unbiased, right? So we have to like be like, oh yeah, we don't know who's gonna win, but it's like sort of go. But at the same time, it's like, no, go Violet.
Well, in honest truth, This is going to be a very difficult match to call either way, because like you were talking about, this Hydra late game from Sortof doesn't have any real glaring weakness. He's not overproducing infestors. He's not overproducing gas-based upgrades. He's just meticulously getting 5 to 6 infestors and then bolting straight to mass Hydralisk and de-emphasizing fungals.
Well, see, the thought process for defeating it, I was thinking, is you rely so heavily on those infested Terrans for attacking. If you force the aggression initially with just straight up roaches, you don't really have enough infestors and fungal to be able to kill everything and gain a massive advantage. So if you can waste all of that, they have no huge push with all these infested Terrans tanking the damage, and then the Hydras are doing massive damage. Splurge all of that mana, and then you can go on more infestors. Normally, more infestors needs a lot more time to materialize that and make, you know, more fungals, more infested Terrans. So you can do that style, just have this little, you know, tiny aggression, drop back, and then all of a sudden take your 4th base a little bit faster. You could play a lot more efficient that way. That's the only thing I can really see. It's not really a counter. It's just a way to deal with that.
Yeah. I mean, certainly spreading it out, doing as many small engagements as you can, and letting him not get enough energy, exploiting the speed of roaches versus the slowness of Hydralisks.
Yes.
Violet is certainly the player who'd be able to pull that off. At this point in time, we're seeing standard-looking Zerg vs. Zerg. Violet early expanding, going for the quicker speed, the quicker Baneling Nest. We're seeing the more defensive Sortof go for the pool first and then expand and then Baneling Nest. And at this point in time, I don't think there's anything that is particularly noteworthy. It's just as standard can be. Yeah,
a lot of times, especially because I was in the back yesterday with Violet, and I was like, Violet, coach me. Tell me what you want me to do. And even on a map like Cloud Kingdom, he doesn't mind going Spire Tech. He doesn't mind going, you know, anything from 9 pull to 15 hatch. He's like, oh, what kind of style do you want to play? We can do anything here. So I feel like Violet is just feeling out his opponent right away, just seeing what his opponent is capable of, because seeing a game and playing a game is completely different, and he might not be comfortable doing aggressive styles or, of course, the converse. But here we go.
We already see the Lings pop in. Will they get a single drone? Nope. 0 drones, an excellent little micro moment there. We're also seeing Sortof get a pretty swift layer, but it looks like Violet has been studying and considering his opponent's play very well, rushing for +1 ground carapace. This is a signal that he wants to go for some mass Zergling aggression. Because keep in mind, 1 blast from Banelings does not kill a Zergling that has +1 armor.
Oh, he's going to get in here and see it. Now, he sees the Evolution Chamber. There's 2 main options. It's either a +1 timing with missile attack, or it's this carapace build. Now, what he's trying to keep track of at this point is the gas count, and he sees 4 gas, so it's a little bit weird. I like what Violet did right there. It is kind of shrouded in mystery. He doesn't know whether it's going to be a roach attack or something like crazy Zergling Baneling, but well, we know it's going to be some sort of Zergling Baneling, or at least the threat of Zergling Baneling. At this point, he's just going ahead, putting up that Roach Warren. No, that's the wrong person. He's putting up a lair and getting additional Banelings while teching to his 3rd.
Yeah, I like this play out of Violet, just going for the standard Zergling type aggression. But I even more so like what we're seeing out of Sortof, consistently going for this near identical style every time. Heavy reliance on defense, just wants to go to the late game, where, interestingly, we're seeing that he has a profound advantage over seemingly any Zerg opponent.
And Sean, remember, in his last game, Sortof always relied on that +1 timing to keep him safe at his 3rd base. So he might be going these Zerglings just to keep them relevant throughout that mid-game stage. We saw that, you know, once like Muta damage was done, the Zerglings were really out of place. They didn't have any substance to them.
Oh! An excellent last-second connection there. And notice that it connected right before +1 is out. So suddenly, it's no longer Banelings that we're seeing out of Sortof. It's roaches. And we do see Violet picks off a single one of those. But right now, I'm not feeling as content with this push timing by Violet.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of it so far. But again, with +1 carapace, these roaches can never really 2-shot these Zerglings. So it gives them a little bit more substance. But still, it's not going to be enough. There's just too many roaches. Their DPS isn't high enough. He's going to have to back up from here. Get the Infestation Pit. is just now finishing up Pathogen Gland, so we're going to see Infestors pretty soon here. Both these players getting third bases at relatively standard times, and again, we're seeing a lot of aggression coming out from Violet. This is absolutely his style. He loves to do macro play, but in front of that, it's all of this aggression, and he really utilizes his multitasking to his maximum abilities.
So Sortof now has a little bit of a defensive trouble he's going to have to overcome.
Yeah.
There's attack angles are being peeled open from Violet left and right. Come look at Sortof's vision. All he has are these overlords in the middle of the map, and they're sort of sparsely placed. Fortunately, we're seeing not a lot of drones from Violet, so Sortof is comfortable in that regard. But, you know, Violet's putting up a lot of excellent threats just with a simple Zergling play.
Yeah, I would love just like a pack of Zerglings to be around the third base of Violet, from Sortof, that is, just to see drone count, to see, you know, potentials, and see if there is a potential timing. Like right now he's pushing out, there's no drones at the third. This could be hitting into a lot of anti-timings.
This is going to be very dangerous of a position. I mean, right now, if you look at the production, those Infestors are just now popping out. The Zerglings have decided that it's time for them to sweep around, and there's just nothing there for defense. Oh my gosh.
Wow, these Zerglings are going to get into the main, and the natural doing massive amounts of damage. Queens are going to go down both at both hatcheries, and meanwhile, I mean,
he
the
misses a big
goes
bungle.
down.
This is a just devastating position to be in.
Oh, nice.
Well, Roaches still don't one-shot very fast, and right now Sortof just does not quite know the correct angle to go for. He's already sustained heavy losses in mining time.
And you know what? Violet doing the right decision, punishing his opponent for going out when he knows that there are Zerglings out in the map. You really can't do that. It's the same thing with, you know, if there's Hellions or Mutas right outside in any other matchup. You can't go out of your base without ample defense at home, especially against the high mobility.
You know, it's one of those funny things where in a lot of games, it's very easy to, you know, like if you're trying to teach your friend about some StarCraft where you say something like, oh yeah, you really need to put a spine crawler there. And they say, why? Well, because it counterattacks. And you can play 100 ladder games and literally that counterattack will never happen. You'll never realize there's a flaw. Violet will always show you with his Zerglings where all the flaws in your defense are. Every single game. It's like, all right, buddy, case in point, that's why you build a spine there. And
and I love that. As we said in the beginning, Violet is one of those players that likes to punish his opponents. And if he sees a glaring weakness, he's going to hit it. And it doesn't matter if you might have the defenses or not. He's going to test you at the very least. And that'll give him information for later periods in, let's say, the best of 3 or best of 5. So I really, really admire that style of Violet, and it's very, very rare.
Now, Sortof has to be careful that this Baneling doesn't do that. This is an unusual play in my eyes because generally this is the location that you hold in order to defend your fourth. And then when you see attacks moving through mid-map here, you can always relocate knowing that this is a restricted entry point, that the rocks are down, so it becomes very difficult for your Zerg buddy to engage. But now Violet has this clearly open attack path. I feel like Sortof made himself a lot more vulnerable with that play.
I mean, the counterattacks are just so substantial. A lot of times you'll see just spine crawlers straight across and maybe like a single infestor just to ward off any potential roach pushes. But it's really unfortunate now. I'm not sure why he did that, but we'll see how he positions his army. Right now, everything that you just said is substantiated with how he's positioning it currently. If it was in like the middle of the map, I could be a little bit more understanding, but it's not. And by the way, Hydra's out for both these players. Violet looks like he's mirroring exactly what his opponent is doing. Although we do see Sortof going a little bit more roaches than normal. As opposed to the Hyun games.
Well, we're also seeing there's a lot more drones on the half of Violet. So in fact, Violet's army size, I didn't mean to disable the sound. That's the opposite of what I intended to do. I meant to do this and show this tab. Look at that. Army supply certainly favors.
That's right. He does have a positional advantage, which is going to help in this upcoming fight. But what he should really look to do is attack that natural. And it's like beautiful because the rocks are already down, so he can very easily go into that position, but you want to have a a tactical spread out type of engagement. Whenever you have this amount of drones, I feel like going straight up is never going to be the right decision in Violet's case.
Oh my God! Violet decides to take the opportunity to engage. Violet gets a lot of his infestors caught out, and here comes the lobber crew action. Everyone throwing down as many of those infested Terrans as possible. And how does Sortof do this every single time? Just has the perfect angle.
Well, not only that, it's the drone count. I mean, we're talking about 10 to 15 more Hydras or Roaches that Sortof had over his opponent because of that drone count. You really, really have to be careful with going to that max because you need that quality units for the first and second and initial 200 pushes. Else, you're always going to be fighting cost efficiently, and therefore you're going to be losing a lot more than you need to.
This is a rough engagement right now that you're going to have to do as the red Zerg. He's going to try to go for a surround. Oh my God!
Beautifully done.
The absolute perfect fungal growth. Again, we see Sortof engaging tactically, perfectly, completely sweeping Violet in this final engagement.
Unbelievable. You can see how much momentum Sortof had from that first fight, and now he's going to go straight for the 4th base, remove that from the field. Again, just like the Hyun games, just lean on your opponent, exercise your macro advantage, and win the game. We're going to see him do that right now.
More Hydra sweeping in from the back. Fungals, GG!
Beautiful.
Sortof takes
Beautiful.
game number 1.
Again, not a fancy play, but it's just straight up theoretically correct. He got the right fungal growth. He got the perfect surround. And let me tell you, that surround is one of the hardest things to do. Whenever I try to surround, it's like, oh, let me attack with one side. That dies, and then the other side comes in, and it's like, oh, well, this is awkward.
The other side's trying to chase after
the
army
like,
that just won,
I'm going to come,
and
and then it's like, well, that didn't work out. So it's like,
you know,
I isolated my army for my opponents. Sortof doesn't do that, though.
It Sortof is like the MVP style, but for Zerg, where it's not about doing the most damage, it's about taking the least amount. So that way when that final engagement happens, better positioning, better composition, better upgrades, wins out. You saw that there was literally one Zergling attack, and for the rest of the time, no opportunities to engage.
Yeah, and I really feel like it came down to that major fight, Violet going in, trying to attack the 4th base. When you have such a substantially high drone count, you have to play that counterattacking game until you can kind of trade out spine crawlers, replace that with infestors because you have to stay a little bit more defensive, and then you can relatively have a nice advantage. But before we go into our next game, we want to thank our sponsors, Azo Monitors, for supporting us, and we'll be back. Don't go anywhere.